Hey everyone, Depressed Dior here with more Langrisser Apex. So, some of my win for the week is not was actually the replay was deleted. I know it existed because this is like my third attempt to record this, and for whatever reason it's just flat out gone. Some of the battle report replays or whatever they're called, they bug out. My the previous win before that I had the last week, like for whatever reason, like it just if I pause the replay, it just breaks completely, and if I let it play out, it eventually makes a weird mistake and just freezes up anyway. So yeah, it's been doing some weird stuff. But I do have some matches to show. One of them being this is against Trisket. For those who actually care about any sort of the YouTube videos or Twitch things of Langrisser, Trisket's one of those people. That's what the strategist banner is. Pretty much those people usually make videos that kind of help people out and produce a lot of content for showing off Langrisser Mobile. I was not expecting to run into her. I know she's at least made to top 256 both season 1 and season 2. So I was pretty shocked to find that I was up against her once we actually got into the field. Other than that, I looked at the kit and I wasn't really sure what to do with it necessarily. Also, you might notice I've kind of changed my kit around. I went ahead and dropped Amelia simply because it's just 3 tanks was just not doing it for me. And I'm planning on changing things up even further as we go along. But I went ahead and brought in young Jessica. She's only 4 stars, but she tends to get banned a lot. So it gives me a little bit more flexibility for the most part. But this also means I have to pick a tank first if I intend on using a tank. I do have my 3-cost skill for Estelle here. So I'll be able to show that off, which will be pretty cool. Anyway, for Trisket's box here, I believe she has a standard setup. 1, 2, 3, 4 healers, 2 tanks, I think it is. Yep, 2 tanks. She of course has a lot of the Yu Yu Hakusho characters. She had Yusuke and Hiei here. I went ahead and banned Yusuke just because I didn't really want to deal with him. Usually I ban Leonhardt first. In fact, all the times I haven't banned Leonhardt first, he has murdered me. So I'll probably consider doing that more often, even more often than I usually do. And yeah, there's a lot of danger in this box, as you'll quickly see. A common theme I've been running into. I usually do my my matches at the start of Saturday, like the very first shift that opens the arena. But I had Pathfinder today, and so I ended up doing it much later, and you end up going up against a lot of tougher opponents in the later hours, to say the least. A lot of them have kind of some, I've been seeing kind of different setups, which is kind of nice, but a lot of them have been rushed down, which is a nice change, but having that 4 or 5 times in a row has been a bit tiring. So, Landius tank, I went ahead and grabbed Estelle. I'm trying to go back to my usual not relying on a faction buff and just relying on an Estelle buff and seeing where that goes. End up grabbing Zerida, which terrifies me. Went ahead and took out Hiei and Iris, so I don't want to deal with any teleporting shenanigans. I grabbed Claret as a counter to Zerida here. Of course, my faction buffers were banned. I pretty much expect that now. Grabbed the second tank. I went ahead and banned Leonhardt and Tiaris. At this point, she's down to 2 healers, or primary healers anyway. I went ahead and grabbed my Tiaris. She banned, of course, my nukers. Grabbed Elwyn. I went and I went straight for her healers and took both of them out. End up getting 2 healers, and this box of course has no standard healers, so I was like, alright, well, let's see what happens. And then I saw also going up against Trisket, and I was very, very scared. Needless to say, I'm pretty sure everything she has is 6 stars. I'm not gonna even bother looking. Juggler has was it Beast Mode or whatever it's called. There's Enduring Hope. Does about 12 points. It does a 12.66% buff to everything except for health, which is slightly. It's about It's like 2% higher than the standard cheer buff, and it provides +1 mobility. The +1 mobility is really nice. The only catch is if you trigger something like Breeze or some other mobility buff, it'll override it. But if you don't override it, it lasts 6 turns, which is really a lot of... I mean, 1 extra mobility for 6 turns is just a lot of extra options as far as movement's concerned. And it also gives me a little bit more, even more movement on Claret, so I'm going to have an 11 movement Claret running around, which would be crazy. Zerida is a standard 6 skill point Zerida. This one the Juggler has the double defensive buffs as well as Beast Shock. Landius, of course, is just standard kit. And then we got Yulia here, a standard 6 skill Yulia, much like mine. And then Elwyn, of course, is standard kit with Eternal Light. So everything here can murder me, and the biggest issue right now is the Zerida, because she's gonna be zoning me pretty hard. I'm gonna be trying to counter zone her. I'm really hoping this recording's not bugged, like the other ones. This was a really good match. Though I'm pretty sure she had full control over everything. I am on her Discord, and I did give a GG after the match, which she returned. Great Dragon Barrier, so even further buffed. I'm kind of just staying in position here. The big issue is I need to make sure that I don't get essentially forked, which is where more than one of my units is threatened at the end of a turn. So yeah, I'm kind of moving around, trying to. She's using kind of her units as a kind of a blockade for my Claret's movement, so it's kind of limiting my movement. Of course, the mist is also coming in, so we're gradually going to be forced together. And then she moved all the way back here. So yeah, I actually screwed up here. I moved too far down, and it provoked the Yulia here. It was within range of the Yulia. I was looking at the threat range and forgot about this. So I kind of lost the initiative right about here. But at the same time, I was kind of glad it happened. She even gave me an opportunity to fix my mistake, but I didn't. So I went ahead and buffed Claret. Yeah, and then Yulia saw the opening. Yeah, just annihilated her. Soften her up with Dark Reaper. Not quite a kill, not that it matters, so she would have self-rest. And then the Breeze procced, which kind of screwed me. If it hadn't have procced, it would have been probably okay. But I went ahead and used the Spirit Boots I had on Estelle to go ahead and move up here to force Elwyn. If Elwyn was going to attack, it would be outside the range of the tanks. And then I zoomed over here, seeing the opening, but it was actually a trap here. Wiped her out. I was considering attacking one of the units here first, and like doing some damage to the tank, and then doing the follow-up attack on Zerida at the 50% mark with the 50% debuff. And I should have done that. I should have softened one of the tanks up before moving, but I didn't, and this is what's going to end up happening. So first goes after my Elwyn. Or, sorry, the Elwyn goes after my Estelle. Now, yeah, Claret's just out of range, unfortunately. That's alright. So I will go ahead and finish off their Elwyn. At this point I have no tank defending me, so I'm kind of just stuck with what I have. And here comes the Beast Shock. Doesn't kill her, but that wasn't really the point. Because now my Claret can't move. For some, I thought Beast Shock was very much like Yulia's little movement debuff, but Juggler's is actually much stronger, but has less range. Essentially, completely disables move and guard, so I can't move no matter how much extra movement I had. So she's trapped in the mist and essentially dead at this point. So I went ahead and attacked Landius. I wanted to soften him up as much as I could, because it's essentially mages versus tanks at this point. So there goes my Claret. I'm going to try to take out him. I don't have any buffs anymore, so I didn't actually get a kill off. So I think I should have went after Landius first. I think I might have gotten the kill and still been able to heal. It's hard to tell because Landius can counter at 2 range. But yeah, crazy fight. I went on quite the losing streak, which included the loss against Trisket. And then this was the last match I did for the night. I wanted to try to end on a high note as best as I could. Definitely unique stuff here. I could see a Renee or Reen, however you pronounce it. A lot of time faction, or not a lot of time faction, but some time faction, some dark, some empire, some strategy. It's kind of a mix here. It looks essentially he doesn't have a juggler, he doesn't have a Leonhardt, doesn't have a Zerida. So that was those stood out to me. So that's why I kind of ended up banning the Tiaras of all things. Essentially, he had technically 3 healers. Chris here can technically do some off healing with her attacks type thing, kind of similar to what like Rachel or even Yulia can do sometimes. But I don't really count her as a primary healer. So he had 3 healers and essentially 2 main tanks, but both Ultimiller and Bernhardt both can end up being physical tanks. And if you want to, they can get the guard skill for it. So I went ahead and banned the healer, so he had to pick a healer if he actually wanted one. And he banned one of my healers, but I wasn't concerned about it. And ended up picking a healer. And then I went straight for Leon's got his new 3 skill, and I don't like dealing with it, so I went ahead and banned him. Also, with combination of Ultimiller, Ultimiller's faction buff would give Leon insane mobility. So I didn't want to deal with that, so I got rid of him, and I went ahead and got rid of Landius, just to kind of limit buffing options. Because really, the only main tank here besides Landius is Ledin here, and Ledin's a good tank, but he's not really good in PvP usually. I went and took Estelle as usual. Went after see, as you can see, they sometimes just ban my Young Jessica for no reason, so I'm like, alright. And then they pick Ozil. Young Jessica is pretty good, but it's going to take some work to figure out how to use her. Because the big issue is she's kind of like a siege tank where you just plant her somewhere. Sorry, I popped the mic there. Plant her somewhere and essentially get increased range with all of her abilities. But not being mobile in PvP could be very, very dangerous. So Bozo means I went ahead and took care of Reen and took care of Yulia, which which actually left open Lana here. I completely missed Lana here, so Lana has now got a faction buff. I went ahead and took care of the tank and the other possible tank, or one of the possible tanks. I went and grabbed TRs and Claret because at this point I have the mobility options, and that was also the reason I took care of Ultimuller, so he didn't have any high movement characters. I took care of Sherry as well for that very reason. Also, Sherry has her 6 cost ability as well, which can stun. Or not 6 cost, 3 cost ability that can also stun. I ended up grabbing my Lana as well, and they let me have my Iris, so I went ahead and was like, alright, if you're gonna let me teleport, I'm going to wreck you. So first thing I went ahead and checked is I checked the Bernhardt, and he does have Iron Fist, so he can guard, but it's only physical. So anything I do with Lana will be bypassed. Obviously the big threats here are going to be, I mean, Bernhardt's very, very dangerous. He has reasonably good attack, and he has Sword Dance, and most people will kit Bernhardt with a sword that increases this range by 1, so it becomes 2 rings, which 2 rings is essentially a big 5x5 square of Doom, where he's the center. And with Rupture he does additional fixed damage, and Sword Dance by itself also prevents healing, which is just a really nasty combo. And looking at the rest of the kit, Ozil, Lana, yeah, it looks like they're going to be doing a lot of just AoE spam if I let them. Chris does have her 3 cost ability. I don't know what to think of it, because most people don't use Chris. It's like 1d6 or 1.6 multiplier, heals self for a bunch, and dispels a debuff of herself. Melee social zero attack. For the attack, your HP increases by 20%, and damage taken will be reduced by 20% for 2 turns, which is probably the unique thing, because a lot of things don't buff HP. And if it happens to be used on a demon, it's a hard counter and it stuns them. And the stun can't be dispelled. So Chris is pretty famous to be being very, very effective against demons, and it's kind of nice that her 3 cost kind of leans into that further. Anything else that really stands out? Not really. Leona has Gossipal. Doesn't actually have a standard heal, but that's probably fair, because she's not going to really get very many opportunities to heal. So here's Enduring Hope again. Got that extra mobility. Bernhardt's going to go ahead and get Iron Fist up and running. I'll move in to get in position. There's Dark Waltz. I do Miracle just for the raw defensive. It reduces damage taken by 15% and increases damage dealt by 15%. It's mainly just to increase the strength of her AoEs, which I ended up not using AoEs for my open. Well, actually, I think I did use an AoE. Yeah, I did. So I was looking at kind of my options here. I was kind of concerned about the Leona doing an act again, but I was confident that my Lana can tank a hit and then just counter as she pleases. So ends up going with Gossipal. So now the buff itself doesn't do anything, but it does make her immune to all debuffs, which means Black Hole won't apply anything to her. But I don't really care about the debuffs, I just want to do damage. So she fights at 3 range, so I can't counter. I was like, okay, that's fine. I went ahead and moved up and did my 3 range. Went straight for their healer. Which without the Shrine Maidens made it very easy to get through. And does Sword Dance, I'm like, okay. Does a bunch of damage and makes it so I can get healed. And then I went straight for the other potential healer. So I had, 11 movement. So trade hits. He doesn't have healers anymore. I went ahead and moved in, did Phoenix Wave just to hit them for more damage. The only healing they have now is Lana can self-heal with Dark Reaper, and she's already used it. So went ahead and just made myself immune to all the debuffs and did some extra damage. And I start moving in my healers. Because I had a feeling they're going to kill my Claret since she's isolated. but Lana went double AoE, so she didn't really have a follow-up. But she did have the staff that freaking makes you stunned if you know, don't get the kill. So now my Clarette's completely unable to do anything. She can't escape now. So I went ahead and just moved in with Iris to go ahead and finish off Bernhardt. Now, Bernhardt cannot really take magic damage. And Buzzle's going to try to finish off Clarette and just came short. That, yeah, that 15% damage reduction was what pretty much saved her. That and of course the healing lights and the other hot that I got from Iris. Move in to go ahead and start putting pressure on Lana with my caster, or my healer rather. So the hot wears off finally. Took some dot damage, not too big a deal. With Dark Hole. Go ahead and finish off Bozel so he doesn't have any actions left. Don't get any extra healing after this, but that's fine, I don't need it. Because thankfully that extra one movement from that buff I have just makes it so easy to cover distance. So I just run in and finish her off. And there you go. So right now I'm pretty low on points. At one point I was at like 1633, but that was earlier in the day. Yeah, my win percentage has been getting worse and worse, but I'm okay with it. So yeah, as far as my team formation is concerned, I've replaced Amelia with young Jessica. I'm considering replacing one of my other healers, with possibly Imelda, and just kind of change things up a little bit. But I'm not going to be able to get Imelda's kit up and running for a little while. I do have Knight of Mystery, or Mystery Knight, but she's not fully kitted out yet, and I don't really have a place to put her yet. I do want to use her because mobile cavalry, that's essentially a mobile that does magic damage, is definitely up my alley for my preferences for doing damage. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, a lot of defeats, unfortunately. Yeah, there I am, like rank 400 now, and I have, as you can see, lots of losses. Yeah, I think technically I had a win before Faye here. Yeah, I had a win here, but for some reason it's no longer showing up. And then this match with Chem is completely glitched as far as the battle report replay is concerned. And a lot of my matches were against a bunch of people that just kind of outzoned me and outplayed me. I got wrecked by Leon's 3-cost skill a bunch of times. So definitely learning about the new tricks of the trade. But anyway, I'm the Depressed Dealer. This is Langrisser Mobile. See you guys later.